The United Kingdom Supreme Court this week unanimously ruled that government's Rwanda immigration policy was unlawful. It lists Rwanda as a safe place for migrants seeking asylum, undeterred by the ruling, or rather unsafe. And undeterred by the ruling, the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he intends to present a reworked treaty in a matter of days, which would see the plan executed. We get some insights on this with Human Rights Watch Advocacy and Communications Officer in the United Kingdom, Dr. Emilie McDonnell. Thank you very much, Doc, for your time this morning. Maybe as a point of departure, how do we need to understand, or what do we need to understand about the UK's migration policy?
Thank you so much. So, as you mentioned, the Supreme Court found that Rwanda is not a safe third country for the government to send asylum seekers to. And this was on the basis that there were substantial grounds for believing that asylum seekers who were sent to Rwanda would face a real risk of being returned to their home country, where they could face ill treatment, persecution and other serious human rights harms, which would place the UK in breach of its international obligations and domestic obligations as well. And the government now responding and saying that they want to pass emergency law, turn the memorandum of understanding into a treaty. It really doesn't change the reality on the ground. The UK cannot legislate away the facts which the court recognised, that, you know, Rwanda's poor human rights record, serious and systemic deficiencies in asylum processing. So it really can't legislate away those facts or its international obligations.
What can you tell us about the barge? We understand that there's this barge that would have 500 sort of rooms, if you will, for lack of a better word, that would house migrants that are still seeking their correct papers in the country. Is that still there?
Yes, so individuals have been moved onto the barge. However, it's just another reflection of a very cruel and inhumane system, the asylum policy of the UK government currently, which rather than ensuring that people are housed in suitable, adequate accommodation that doesn't exacerbate risk to their mental health and other issues, that instead they're pursuing a policy of housing people in a barge, you know, in an isolated location, very far from services. It's just a further iteration of the government, rather than investing all of the money. You know, 140 million pounds has been sent to Rwanda for the Rwanda deal, and of course money for the barge as well. Instead of putting money into these kinds of inhumane and as we saw from the Supreme Court, an unlawful scheme, the UK government should be putting that money into fixing the broken asylum system in the UK, ensuring that it addresses the great backlog of cases, ensuring that it creates safe routes for people to seek asylum. And this is what they should be focused on, rather than at the moment trying to get around a Supreme Court judgment of the highest court in the UK, and to try and say that we can change the facts through law, which just isn't the case.
What should we understand about that? Because it's ironic, you mentioned the amounts of the barge and you mentioned the other amounts, but the government of the United Kingdom will tell you they simply could not afford to keep people in hotels, etc. And so they cite affordability or a lack thereof. But what then do we really need to understand if the money is there but it's not being used correctly? Is this a view that is held by most parties in that country, or is it just the majority party?
So what I would say is what we're seeing, and especially the response to the Rwanda Supreme Court decision, is that this is a lot of political posturing. There will be an election coming up in the UK in the next year, and the government here is really trying to save voters. their political credibility, to show that they can deliver on one of their key pledges to reduce irregular migration across the English Channel, and to show that they're taking a hard line on asylum seekers and, reducing people crossing the Channel. But the thing is the government always knew that this plan was unworkable, and in any event that Rwanda would only be able to take a few hundred people. So they're pushing ahead with this and other very cruel policies, including the barge, in order to politically posture.
Thank you so much, Doc, for your time this morning.